Over the last several months, I've been telling you how wonderful this 70-200 2.8 G2 by Tamron has been. Adapted onto my R6 Mark II and my R7. It just gives an amazing look. But in the back of my head, I've been cheating on it. I've been surfing the internet when it hasn't been around and looking at another lens when it comes to inanimate objects or software. But there are lovers out there, and these are my lovers. But this one's different. She's thinner, she's lighter. Yeah, baby, I told you to go on a diet, but you didn't listen. This one is a lot thinner and lighter and lets me move around. She's mobile, baby. She's mobile. This one needs a wheelchair. This one. Oh my gosh. What is wrong with me? It's true. You need a wheelchair. You are so freaking heavy. You, baby, you are light like a feather. Oh my gosh. I've been dreaming about you forever. Let's talk about it. These lenses are huge. Not really. This one's huge. This one is not. So these are both 70-200s. This one is a 2.8. This is a fixed aperture of 4. But I gotta tell you, I really don't care about the 2.8 after shooting this for a week because the f4 is sharp, the contrast is amazing, and what I have found out, this lets in a lot more light than this does at f4. It just has to be magic. I don't know what else it could be. It's magic. So in order to really understand the size of these babies, you gotta strip them down. That's right. We're gonna strip this one down first. Now, this isn't a lens that I'm like, hey, let's go outside and take some photos. Oh, let's travel a little bit with this because it is heavy. Plus you have to have the RF adapter on here, the EF2 RF. And so it does make it bulkier. It doesn't extend out any further. Now this, on the other hand, is super light and small. This is the Canon 70-200 f4 RF. And let's just take this off. So now without the lens hood, this thing is even smaller. It's actually smaller than my 24-70 and my 15-35. It is smaller than that. It is lighter than that. It's been pleasant to put on my Canon R6 Mark II and even on the Canon R7. This has felt really good. So this is what they look like together. You're looking at about 3.5 pounds here and 1.5 pounds here. That 2 pounds makes a huge difference when you're on the go. This one, I'd be prone to just put it on my camera and go to the park. Now, the reason I've been eyeing this for many, many months is because of its portability, its size. It can squish down into my bag really easily. But here's the question. Does f4 and f2.8 make a huge difference when it comes to photography and price as well? Because I picked that up used for $700, the Tamron that is, not this. This one was refurbished on Canon's website for $1,350, so $1,350 plus tax. Still, that's almost double the price compared to getting that one used. Yet it has totally been worth it for me. Even in this last week, I've realized, wow, I actually take more photos in that 70-200 realm because I want to take this with me. Whereas the Tamron, it's just way too heavy. I'm not going to go anywhere with it. This one I can shove in my bag. So I'm going to make this simple. We're going to do a quick video test between these two lenses in my driveway. I will tell you this already, and you're going to notice this in the video, that the Tamron is wider and doesn't zoom in as far as the Canon version. The Canon version is probably more accurate to a 200mm, where I'm thinking the Tamron's closer to 170-180, not quite 200mm. Which makes you think, don't you want more of a reach? After we do that, I'm going to show you a few photos in Lightroom and what that looks like unedited. Then we're going to come back in here and I'm going to give you my final thoughts. And yeah, I don't really have much of a poker face, so I think you already know my final thoughts, but I'll give you more details on what I'm thinking. All right, this is focused on that tree across the road at 70mm, 2.8 on the G2. That is 135mm focused on that tree in the back, so you can see how sharp and how blurred out everything else is. and 200 millimeters, 2.8 right there. And that is what that looks like. Now we're at 70 millimeters, and now we're at f4 and 250th of a second shutter speed, where the other one was 1/400th of a second to compensate. And so that's 70 millimeters, 135 millimeters right there, and 200 millimeters f4, focused on that tree across the street. This is 70 millimeters at f4 for the 70-200 RF f4 Canon version, and that's what that looks like. Now 135 millimeters focused on that tree across the street, and again 1/250th of a second, f4, ISO is 100, and last 200 millimeter right there. I'm just gonna make sure the focus is on the tree perfectly there across the street. And as you can see, in the exact same position, it has a further zoom, so this is probably more accurate to 200 millimeters than the G2 Tamron 70-200. So 1/50th f4, ISO 400, and that is at 70 millimeters. Let's go to 135. So 135 focused on that gold metal piece in the center. And now let's go to 200, and 200 focused on that gold metal piece in the center. Okay, this is the Canon 70-200 RF f4 at f4, 1/50th. ISO is 400, and same white balance Kelvin as at 4600, so that hasn't changed. So 70 millimeters, let's move to 135. So 135 focused on that gold metal piece in the middle of the watch. This hasn't changed a bit, so it could be the fact that the G2 is so heavy that it sagged it down a little bit, but I do know that there is a lot more of a reach when it comes to the Canon version of this lens. Okay, let's go to 200. So 200 focusing on that metal piece right there, a little gold, and that is what that looks like at 200 millimeters. So this is my wife coming back from the park the other night. We have music in the park every Wednesday, and it is about 5 blocks from our house. So I rushed back so I can get this shot at 200 millimeters. You can see that right up there, 200 millimeters. The ISO is 2000 because it's getting dark out at f4. So this is wide open on that. And I just liked how this is framed, and that 200 millimeters just does magic. And it's super light. I took a ton of photos, and this is the one that I think is going to be pretty funny. Not edited. I didn't do any editing at all. So this is just right out of camera. So my kids and I have been way into Star Wars lately. We went through all the episodes, and my boy likes to act out everything. So I think he's pretty much Anakin Skywalker and just got the, you know what, beat out of him. And so this is him acting dead. So anyways, he's pretty dramatic like his daddy, I guess. 129 millimeters, f4, ISO is 800. And the cool thing about this is there's actually a pavilion and pavement there, and then wood chips right down below here. But you can't tell. When you're zoomed in at 130 millimeters, it just gives you that idea of like, hey, there could be anything around here. So this is my daughter, and this one's at 70 millimeters, f4, ISO 800. And it's just pretty cool because you can see the environment around her. It's enough information that you're like, okay, she's either in a park or, you know, in town somewhere that's a little woodsy. But the subject still stands out. And that's the misconception when it comes to high or wide open apertures. You get that 3D pop. Well, I got to tell you, the Canon RF lenses do give you that 3D pop even when stopped down. So 4, 5.6, 7.1, you stop those down, there's still 3D pop of the subject. You just see more of the information in the background, but the subject is just tack sharp. This one's at 200 millimeters, f4, ISO 800 of my son. So I was pretty close up, and you can just tell how you can blow out that background even at f4. This one's also at 200 millimeters, f4, ISO 320. And again, I want to reiterate, none of these are edited. I just wanted to show you right out of camera with the lenses how sharp that looks. And so this could be cleaned up but pretty darn sharp, and my daughter stands out quite a bit. And then you have the idea of, okay, there's a house there, and at 200 millimeters, that house is probably about 2 blocks away, but it looks a lot closer. And here's another one at 200 millimeters, and it just gives you that nice look. Unfortunately, I did it at 1/200th of a second, but really I should have gone even faster because you can see motion blur there. So I just wanted to show you this. This was a team photo that I did for one of my clients the other day, and it is at f7.1, 131 millimeters, ISO 200. And the nice thing about stopping down to 5.6 or 7.1, you make sure all your subjects are in focus. So if you look there, they're all in focus. This is right out of camera, no editing at all. So this is the contrast that that lens gives you, which is pretty amazing. So before I do sell my Tamron 70-200 2.8, I am gonna test this out a little bit more. I'm gonna give this a good month of use. I am going to keep it. I've already decided that on day one because it's so mobile. But do I want 2.8 ever? I haven't missed it. The 2.8 really hasn't bothered me. I stop down a lot as it is, and most people should stop down. If you're doing portraiture, nobody really shoots wide open. But hey, you tell me, do you stop down or do you shoot it wide open? Wide open does look good, but stopping down does give you more of that environmental look around you. Plus, if there's more than one person in the photo, 2.8, you're gonna get somebody out of there. They're gonna feel like a jerk too. They're gonna be like, I was not good enough for that photo. I was the blurred out person. If you are interested in this lens, which if you have a Canon RF mount, gosh, you really should save up for this lens. It's awesome. I will leave a link below. And if you have any questions on it that I did not answer in this video, leave a comment below and I will do my best to answer that. So it's that time in the video when, hey, you gotta make a decision. There's like 2 options right there. You can't go wrong because Google picked those 2 just for you. You'll like them.